We are looking at the February 26th entry of Rhapsody of Realities.
Right, by Pastor Chris. And the topic is Born into Divinity, which is, well, it makes a pretty radical claim.
Yeah, it really goes way beyond your standard turn over a new leaf kind of theology.
It definitely isn't subtle. The entry takes the whole concept of being born again and essentially argues for a complete structural change of the human being.
Which I guess means we have to start with the elephant in the room, right? 2 Corinthians 5.17.
Ah, yes, the new creature verse.
Right, exactly. Like every regular listener knows that verse. It is the absolute standard text for this topic. But the source argues we've been reading the word new completely wrong.
Yeah, that is the real pivot point here. Because usually people read new and they think renovated, like it's the same house, but with a fresh coat of paint, maybe some better habits.
Right.
But the text actually points to Romans 6.3 and Galatians 3.27 to argue that believers are baptized into Christ. So it is defining new not as improved, but literally as a change in species.
A change in species. So we really aren't talking about a software update here. This is a full hardware swap.
That's exactly it. It is total immersion. The author states you are received into Christ. It describes this transition where you leave humanity behind completely and enter divinity.
Okay, but wait. If we are transitioning to divinity, what happens to the human part? Does it just sit in the back seat? Because that is how I have always pictured it, honestly. Like a merger.
A merger, right?
Yeah, like you have your regular human life, paying taxes, getting tired, and then you add a little God life on top for the spiritual stuff.
Well, the source explicitly rejects that idea. It says your human life was not merged with eternal life. It was replaced by it.
Okay, stop right there. Because that changes the entire game.
It really does.
If it is a replacement and not a mix, then there is no human nature left to blame when things go wrong. That puts the stakes incredibly high.
It does put the stakes high. Think of it less like a renovation and more like a body snatching. The text argues the human you is just gone, fully displaced by the divine nature.
Wow.
Yeah, the author says the human life is supplanted by God life, which comes with specific attributes. It calls it incorruptible, indestructible, and impregnable to failure and death.
Hold on. Impregnable to failure. That is a massive claim. I mean, I can name 10 believers right now who are definitely struggling with failure or sickness or just, having a really bad Tuesday.
Yeah, of course.
So if the human life is completely replaced by this super life, why does the reality look so entirely different?
That is the obvious disconnect, right? But the text actually anticipates that exact objection. It basically argues that the hardware is there, but the user hasn't logged in.
Oh, I see. So it is an awareness issue.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The source leans heavily on 1 John 5.13 here. It argues that knowledge is the activator.
Knowledge is the activator.
Right. It is the difference between having $1 million in a dormant bank account versus actually having the debit card in your hand and knowing the P-line. The source is arguing that the God life is already deposited, but knowledge is the only code that accesses it.
That is a frustratingly simple answer. So you were saying the text claims you can possess indestructible life but still live as a mere man just because you don't actually know what you have.
That is the specific language the text uses, yes. It says you will suffer afflictions just like anyone else, not because the divine life isn't there, but because you aren't living in the consciousness of it. The source literally says your knowledge of it activates the experience.
So to summarize the logic here, the entry claims being born again is a literal replacement of human mortality with divine immortality.
Yes.
But, and here's the massive catch, the power remains completely dormant unless the believer actively knows and acknowledges it.
You've got it perfectly. It is a complete move from mortality to immortality, but it relies entirely on the believer's mindset to actually function in the real world.
Man, it definitely forces you to look in the mirror differently.
It really does. And here is a thought to leave you with. The text posits that this transition isn't just a ticket to the afterlife, it is a present tense reality.
Right now.
Right. So if we take the source at its word, what does it look like to walk into a grocery store, pushing a cart in the frozen food aisle, while genuinely believing you are impregnable to failure? That is a wild shift in perspective to carry into a mundane Tuesday.
Standing in the checkout line, fully equipped with God nature.
Yeah.
That is absolutely something for you all to think about.
Well, thank you for unpacking all that with us today.
Always a pleasure. Until next time.
We trust you were blessed by this episode. To gain unlimited access to Rhapsody of Realities by Pastor Chris, please download the Rhapsody app using the link myapp.rhapsodyofrealities.org. God bless you.